That is now pretty nice and sticky. That means it's ready for the next stage. I did this morning, it wasn't same like this, it was pretty tacky. This morning I applied a second coat of gel coat. Now I'm not sure, I think that was not a good idea. In any case, the only thing I can do is move on with the process, otherwise it'll be pretty hard to get this off. If I have ruined this, I'll just have to finish the mold, pop it off the plug and throw the mold away. We'll just see what happens. But yeah, the gel coat might have wrinkled. I think because I did 2 coats and they might have dried at different rates obviously. So I'll avoid that in the future, and I'll just need to use a spray gun even though it's a small amount. For the next step, I'll mix up the epoxy putty, which is, I haven't actually seen it, I don't know what it looks like, but it's just going to be a really thick epoxy paste, I imagine. And I will fill in the tight gaps, because when I put the fiberglass over this, it's not going to want to conform to the really tight corners. So we'll fill the tight corners with the putty first. With this sort of stuff you always want to wear a mask, and the garage door is open here as well. Oh wow. One resin hardener. This is resin, this is the hardener, is it? Yep. So 2 parts resin, 1 part hardener. Now I was told if this crystallizes, which it has, it's pretty crystal-y, to warm it up a bit and it will lose that property. I guess I don't want it to be crystals. Oh. I think the power went out. What the hell? The power just went out. Whatever. Alright, so 2 parts that, 1 part this. That's about right. Wow, this stuff is awesome. Like, this would seriously be really good. I should have been using this a long time ago. I had it, I just didn't think I'd need it, because I was planning to use this for molds. But now I realize how good this would have been a while back. Instead of using body filler, I should have just been using this. It's just like really mucky stuff. So I'll just use my finger with the gloves and just fill in the gaps here. And I don't even know if these smell really bad. The mask is actually doing a really good job. It always does, so I'm not sure how this even smells, but I guess I'll find out eventually later on. Not that I'll be intentionally inhaling it, but you know. That's why it's important to always wear gloves. You never know when you'll get things on your hands when you don't want them. Next up I use this resin here, which is actually airproof, I guess. It makes the mold airproof, airtight, so that
I can use a vacuum pump with it. Otherwise, normally our mold would actually, you wouldn't believe it, but it would let air through it. This stuff stops that. So that's going to go over the top with fiberglass and carbon fiber. Forgot to hit record. Now it's time for this resin here. I need 1.5 to 2% of the hardener. This is 77 grams. So 77, 1% is 0.7, 1.5, 2% is about 1.5 grams. That's all I'm going to put in here, about 1.5 grams, which isn't going to be very easy actually, 1.5 grams. But at least like one, so. This stuff is by far the smelliest out of all the resins I've ever had to deal with. By far, easily. The smelliest stuff I've ever come across. And that's so runny. It's so runny. It's hard to imagine that something this watery turns into a solid, but there you go. That's science for ya. Ah, damn crazy scientists, what they won't come up with. Okay. The first thing I'll do, I'll chop this thing into heaps of bits. Well, first thing I'll do is I'll just rub the resin all over this. I'll make a quick little makeshift brush in this way. I used to use paint brushes, but then you try and save it by, cleaning it out with acetone and whatnot. Forget about it, okay? There you go, how good is that? Who needs a brush, right? Who needs a brush? Okay. That works just as good as any $15 brush, and you really aren't going to be crying over it when you have to throw it away. From experience, when I made that big mold, this stuff, when this starts curing, oh my god, you better work quick. You better work quick. So, luckily this is much smaller. This is much smaller, and also luckily the temperature is actually much lower, just in general. I did it on a pretty warm day if I remember correctly, so it was just a losing race basically that I was fighting. Today I should have a much easier time. I'll get tiny bits of this first, and I'll just work them in around the edges. Just around the harder to reach places like that. Before I put down the really big pieces, just to make sure I get into all the edges properly. Just dab it all down with this. Fiberglass is funny. At first it's really rigid, like that, when it's all still held together, but then it just falls apart. When you get it wet like this, with resin, it just falls apart pretty quickly on you. Which means then you can push it into place correctly. And you don't want any air bubbles when you do this. The good thing with fiberglass is you can see the air bubbles pretty easily. Very easy to spot. It's like a white white circle basically, you know, and you just dab it, dab it, dab it, and it goes away. That's really good. Now put a layer of that over the top. Alright, let's saturate that. Yeah, with other resins you get a lot of time to work with them, and I personally suggest taking your time and making plenty of resin. With this, I've learned from experience, just get moving, you know, get moving. And don't make too much, because when this sets off, it's a runaway train and you're not catching it. So I didn't make much. If I have to, which I think I will, I'll just make more. No problem. See how that is kind of pretty rigid and it's not conforming? It will once it loosens up a bit, but it would have been a real big problem trying to get it to fit into all those gaps. Which is why I use the putty first and just tiny bits of fiberglass first. Make sure you get it nice and wet and then you can push it into place. See that? There we go. It's almost perfect, just a bit more. Few more bubbles, come on. There, oh, that's beautiful. Couple bubbles there. This whole big thing is a bubble. Get it out of there. More wet. Dab, dab, dab. Drip, drip, drip. Da, 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 da. Dave Chappelle. Okay, you could use a roller for this. Now rollers work really well. Man, rollers work real good. But again, you got to clean them, and who wants to do that, right? Who the hell wants to clean a roller? There we go. Just gonna get. Are those even air bubbles? They're not. It's just putty. Beautiful. I'll throw this away. I'll use another one. It's gone too yucky. Ugh. Get the hell off my hand. Now I think what I'm planning to do right now, and I think I'm going to stick with it, with that plan, is to use 3 layers of fiberglass and then a layer of carbon fiber on top to give it extra strength. Although I think with a piece this small it should be okay, but with the large mold there, I learned that I should have probably had more. I probably should have used carbon fiber in the mold to make it stronger. Now the other thing with carbon fiber used for this sort of purpose is it's going to suck. Because with fiberglass you can see the air bubbles, you can chase them out. Look at these things. Leave, get out of here. Get out of here, bum. There you go. See that? Bubbles, gone. You probably can't even see that. Anyway. Carbon fiber, because the stuff is charcoal coloured, you don't know where the bubbles are. So you just got to make sure you pat it real good, but you can't be sure. You can't be sure where the bubbles are. Okay, I'm using my glove. This bad boy thinks it can tell me who's boss. There we go. There you go. Squeeze that sucker out like a pimple. Alright. I need to mix up more resin. It'll be very hard, and I do plan to do it in the future. Actually, I do plan to just mold the stuff with the vacuum infuse and stuff. That's it. It'll be very hard to vacuum infuse it, but I do plan to do that in the future. It's just because this is such a small piece, and I'm trying to make many of them. It would just be a very painstaking process, so I'm not really that eager to do. To tell you the truth, I'm not eager to do it. There you go, that was easy. Why couldn't I do that last time? Well, because it wasn't as soggy as I did it this time. Also, there are less corners with each layer. It becomes smoother and smoother. Perfect. Now I'm going to do the carbon fibre. Almost. Yeah. Yeah, wait, hold on. I'll put this in the middle first. The less I have to worry about creases and stuff, the better. The smoother the whole shape, the better the carbon fibre will go in, because it won't really conform to the shape as well as this, which is why I didn't do it straight away. If I did infuse the mould, I could do it straight away with carbon fibre. Although I would still put 1 or 2 layers of fiberglass, so I don't get that carbon fibre shape coming through. Okay, good. Now, let's be brave and do this. Or should I wait till this sets? Yeah. Now I'll go with this resin. Let's do it now. Now or never. Now or never. Here it comes. Scuba jock. I could just lay them across like this. That would suck, so I'll do this. Now I'm just going to go to town and really saturate this. Wow, that looks nice. Because this is a thick piece of carbon fibre, I think it's 1350 grams per square meter. It's pretty tough stuff. It'll be a bit of an adventure to get it to saturate properly. Luckily I have plenty of resin. It should be okay. In any case, all this is a learning process. Whatever you do in life, you have to be ready to fail miserably a lot. Whatever it is you're doing, be prepared to fail. Oh, I think this is okay. Yeah, it seems to be actually conforming to those bumps pretty well. Because the bottom layers below it are very well saturated. It soaks that up too, so it sticks down nicely. Then, when this is done, I'm just going to hit it a bit with the heat gun. Just gently going to heat it up, and this stuff should just set off like crazy. You see it go white. This won't look too pretty, but that's not what this is about. Molds don't have to look pretty, just the surface has to be good. Okay, time for the heat gun.